I am so blessed to be surrounded by incredible women in my midst. For me, I really wanted to just be a part of that change and be a part of that movement.
And I think a lot of us want to lead people, help people, but we don't realize that we are walking weapons. Like, we could hurt them.
Wow, that was so pregnant.
Really okay to prioritize yourself before you do that work. I think we can, especially as women, we can be in such a rush to go and save everybody else's world before our own.
I can push you and be like, Emmanuelle, you said you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. Wake up. Those words are easy to come out of my mouth until I then assess, Courtney, why don't you wake up early? As a generation, it's when you're called to lead people, you have to realize you're just a part of a bigger thing.
Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. You probably haven't seen me before. Well, that's because I'm the national... I'm joking. I'm taking over.
Well, we are in the hot seat today.
For once on our own podcast, we shall be the people in the hot seat, the guests. It's giving Inception.
Right.
We are the guests on the TMS
our
podcast.
Literally. I'm Courtney.
I'm Renee.
We are your online sisters and the typical hosts of this podcast. Today, it has been taken over by our little sister, our friend, and just an amazing woman, I will say.
Too kind.
Emmanuelle.
It's an honor to be interviewing my big sisters. I'm so excited.
No, we are so excited for this conversation. So, for this conversation and maybe the next, we are going to be answering some questions that the sisterhood has as they listen to our podcast and just want to navigate life. And let's set some context here.
Okay.
Miss Emmanuelle ended up in this hot seat. Actually, by fruit of positioning.
Come on.
By fruit of positioning and service. I was looking to get my lashes done before my holiday to Barcelona with my little sister, and came across Victoria, who is an amazing entrepreneur doing amazing events for women all around the world. And she had posted that you did her lashes, and I was like, you're nearby, I will go get my lashes done. And as I was laying there, the conversation we were having was just so beautiful. I could just tell that you're a woman with such a calling and just such a bright future, but you're also so vulnerable in so many ways. And unfortunately, I had an allergic reaction to my lashes, so I had to go back like 2 days. Yeah, 2 days later. Do a glue test before. Don't be like me, because I was in haste.
Book your patch test.
But anyway,
thank you.
I ended up having to go back a couple days later, and we just kept talking for a couple hours. And at the end of it, you talked about like just needing someone. And there were so many things from you watching my YouTube content that you related to in terms of things that you've been through with parents and just childhood and trauma. And in that moment when you're like, I just need like someone, I was just like, oh God.
Is it me, Jesus?
Giving the heartstrings,
is it me, Jesus?
Giving the heartstrings, pulling the heartstrings,
so
whatever.
I usually, and I've said this on the podcast, I don't say yes to having mentees at the moment. And so I just felt the Holy Spirit be like, just be her big sister. And I was like, oh, okay. So literally told you, okay, cool, let's see each other, a couple times a month. And now every week we sit down and we talk about
we
life
chop it up,
and goals. We do this whole discipleship journey with each other. And it's been a genuine pleasure for the last 1 year to get to mentor you and disciple you and see you evolve and grow as an entrepreneur, as a woman. And I was able to then give you another big sis.
Dun, da, da.
I don't know. It's like sharing everything together. It's just that was me thinking, oh, this is a really cute relationship dynamic that they got going on. I'll be seeing it. I'll be hearing Emmanuelle. I'll be seeing her. I'm like, oh, she's such a cute, such a wonderful lady. I hope Courtney is really enjoying that relationship. Lo and behold, Emmanuelle, I'll see her in the house. I'm like, hey girl, how's it going?
Hey girl.
Fast forward a couple months later, why am I now going on coffee catch-ups with this babe? I'm like, let me just get to know her since she's going to be around this often. And then the coffee catch-ups also then turned into, oh, you know what, events, let's go to that together. So it's really giving the spirit of adoption.
Right.
It's really giving proximity and positioning.
Come on.
And it is very much giving the fruit of, as Courtney said, service. Like,
come on.
If there's one thing that I can really attest to, is the fact that Emmanuelle has a heart of service.
Thank God.
And she has been such a breath of fresh fresh air, especially because obviously me and Courtney, we're not old, but you know, our joints, they're starting to go creak and all that kind of thing, bump in the night and all them things. So actually having the perspective and the freshness of somebody that's a little bit younger, but don't be fooled wise.
Thank you so
Somebody
much.
that's a little bit younger, but also so keen to just learn more and actually have somebody to pour into has been so beautiful. So God bless you for bringing her into our lives, and God bless you for putting your foot, like literally putting your
on
foot
the gas.
Literally,
Standing on business.
this girl is now saved in my phone as Emanuelle, TMS little sister. Genuinely saved.
So that's
Forever.
what brought you here.
Locked in.
That's what brought you here. Now the floor is yours. Grill us. Ask away, girl.
Wow. First of all, I just want to thank you. An honorary thank you for allowing me to interview you guys. It's a pleasure. I've watched you guys, and in you guys, your stories, your wisdom. I've gleaned from your wisdom and learned so much. So it's an honor to be like this close and getting into it. Okay, so the first question I want to start off with is, why did you guys decide to be change makers?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Do you want to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Why did we decide to be change makers? I think I can speak to the individual, and then I can speak about our friendship and how that has also facilitated change making.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, change is all about seeing impact and making lives better. I always had a burden to actually see people thrive, and I've had that from a pretty young age. I think one thing that we share is being the eldest daughter within our circumstances, and naturally being somebody that really wanted the best for people and just naturally wanting to see people win in life and drawing so much from community and people that really cared about me and invested in me, and realizing that it's actually our responsibility to at least try to clean up the parts of the world in our midst, right? So how do we actively make sure that people have the best opportunities possible? Because there were so many people in my life that, because they had said yes to being a change maker, made change in my life. So actually having that natural inclination, seeing the investment that I had received from my parents, from my friends, from the people that are closest to me to actually change my life, and being so full that I had the opportunity to give people from the overflow has always been something that's close to me. But also seeing the material conditions of people that were less fortunate, also being up close and personal with people's journeys that literally required one person to care enough about them to sow a seed has always been something that's really close to me, and particularly women, because it's not enough to just be a change maker for the world. It's whose world? Like being very specific about what that burden is that you have inside of you. And for me, it was always women. I am so blessed to be surrounded by incredible women in my midst, and seeing how their lives were changed, seeing how they've changed other women's lives, especially at a time where obviously we're doing really, really well as it pertains to the changing conditions for women, but across the world, seeing how women can be such a positive force and seeing how community can birth the best in women. For me, I really wanted to just be a part of that change and be a part of that movement. I didn't necessarily always want to be at the front per se, even if I could just be a leg or an arm or just part of that mission to actually make women's lives better. That was always really, really important for me. And then I guess change maker as it pertains to us and our friendship, I can honestly say I wouldn't have made and I couldn't make the amount of change or impact that I would like to see without somebody like Courtney by my side. Like, when we think of the change that we want to see in the world and all that kind of good stuff, we often think of ourselves as individuals, right? But change is strengthened so much by community and strengthened by people that change you. And I can honestly say, not this turning into a love letter to Courtney. Guys, this is a setup.
Everybody say, "Aw."
Shut up. But genuinely, there are worlds that I don't think I could have accessed and changed if I didn't have Courtney changing my world. Oh my God, that sounded so
cute.
Sound bites.
Wow. I love you.
Edit cut. Yeah. That was so beautiful.
You did have mercy.
Wow. It's giving love. Shall I leave? Y'all are having a moment.
Yeah, do you guys need room?
So platonic.
So
no,
platonic.
but likewise.
But genuinely actually benefiting so much from somebody that said yes to changing me and actually having a stake in me and investing in me.
Wow.
And similarly, the women in my life actually saying yes to changing me. Like, yes, I am a change maker, but I'm only a change maker because someone decided to make a change in my life.
Come
And
on.
being able to continue that legacy for other people, I'm like, if I'm benefiting so much from the fruit of this community, this friendship, this covenant, and the covenants I share from other people, then that's not something that should be gatekept. That's something that we should be actively going to other people's drives and breaking down the gate so that they too can also enjoy the experience of having people that care about you enough to support you and change you.
Come on.
So yeah, that's what I would say in a nutshell. But
I
Miss
love
CDB.
that.
That is
Yeah, no,
beautiful.
very similar. I think for myself, it was never a conscious choice. It was never even a phrase I was aware of until like getting into LinkedIn space and like, oh, change maker. And then literally, and then I won this like change maker award. And I was like, is that what you guys would define this as? So, okay, change making. It was never a conscious choice. And I think when it comes to figuring out your assignment in your life and your purpose and what you want to do, it should never be from the perspective of what title do I want. It's just do the work and the title will find you.
Wow, that's
I
really
feel like
good.
my career has been a testament to that. But I would say coming into the space of like social impact and what we do, and just it has come from a place of genuine care and genuine concern. Throughout my life, I have experienced a lot and witnessed a lot of injustice towards women firsthand. I've experienced it, I have seen it, and I've seen how it can break families, break women, derail destinies. I have seen how it can cause so much trauma to your mental health and your well-being. I've literally seen amazing women in my family and in my life crumble and become a shadow of themselves because of some form of injustice, not even just in their relationships, but also socially. Like I grew up in social housing in London, on a council estate. I grew up witnessing domestic violence, like in several women's lives, in several women's lives in my life, from mother, auntie, godmother, like every left, right, center. I was seeing just some kind of injustice, some kind of inequality towards a woman, some kind of abuse, basically. But then I would hear my mum go on calls with the council and people not take her seriously because of her accent, or like all of these different things. And as I've said this on the podcast so many times, I used to be a very angry person. And so there was always rise up in me an anger. Like it's just like there's an anger all the time. And it would manifest in rebellion, arguing. That's why everyone was pushing me to do law, because like you're just fighting all the time. Like use this point evidence explanation gift you have to go and win some cases or something. So I kind of saw myself get to this place of how do you go about responding to your anger in a productive way, right? You can't just go around arguing with everybody, slewing everybody, being mad at the world and allowing that to wreak havoc in your relationships, in your life, and in your progress. You have to channel this in a better way. And so it then became the anger is not the problem, it's the manifestation of it, right? Like you having an anger towards injustice, there we go, we have it. But the enemy can pervert that and make it an anger towards the world. But God loves the world. Like he loves people, he loves his children, whether they know him or not. And so it's kind of like, okay, God, what does using this to help people look like? And that's kind of what got me in this road of like, okay, use your voice, use your talents, use your analytical skills, like use all of these storytelling gifts you have to help people experience some kind of deliverance, not in the really churchy way, but changing mindsets or just breaking free from like a system, because that's what Egypt was. And I think we always talk about people renewing their mind in the church, but we never talk about how renewing your mind isn't just about lust or envy or thinking in a sinful way. Renewing your mind is also the systems of this world, like capitalism and patriarchy and misogyny and financial injustice and environmental climate issues, like all these other ways that society has grown us up to think about women and people and Black people and all of this. Like we need to confront those kind of systems, break off those mindsets so that people can actually experience freedom. And that's what I love what you were saying about the people who invested in you and the community that invested in you, so that you could ultimately experience freedom, whether it was freedom in thinking or freedom in the way you felt like you can navigate the world as a young Black girl. Like for me, I just was like, okay, cool, if that's what I can do, then I'll just do that. It's a worthy cause and it satisfies that rage inside of me. So yes, my healthy vehicle.
Grr.
Big girl.
I think that is so beautiful. And I think a commonality between both of your stories of like finding that using your voice as a result of seeing the injustices in other women's life. It reminds me of a quote that says, I'm not free whilst a woman has different shackles to mine, or something along those lines. Like, I'm not free as long as there's a woman in shackles, even if hers look different to my own. And I love that a lot of your passion has come from the women in your own lives. So what would you say to healing and not pioneering it from a place of like rage and anger, but rather I want to see better from a place of health and wholeness. And obviously in your faith, you have that like wholeness in Christ thing. What would you tell the sisters that want to make a change, but want to do so from a healed place and not from a place of rage? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I think the first thing is it's actually okay to prioritize yourself before you do that work. I think we can, especially as women, we can be in such a rush to go and save everybody else's world before our own. And I think over the course of the last few weeks, we've been having conversations about the importance of women actually giving themselves care, about bringing ourselves into a place of daughterhood, about making sure that we prioritize the girl child. So I think if your inner girl child is not healed, then you have no business going to heal anybody else's world. You have to start with your own. The blueprint that you often start with is the one internally and the one that you've experienced. It's very difficult for you to create a reality for other people that you haven't experienced. And I think it's beautiful that there's so many women that are now taking healing and actually have the self-awareness to say, I need to be healed before I need to go and make somebody else's world whole. So really gripping wholeness with their hands, right? Saying, I need to be healed. I need to pour into myself and I need to operate from a place of love, first and foremost, just the self-awareness of that. And then also acknowledging that it's going to be a journey and that sometimes the process of healing will take time, right? Like, it's all well and good to think, oh, I'm focusing on my healing journey. I need to be completely whole. I need to be a finished product before I go out into the world. I think acknowledging that the healing process might not look like what we define as healing, right? We often think of the aesthetics or the outside or the function, right? But then remembering that healing is very much to do with the innards. It's very much to do with the things that the world cannot see, right? Like, we need to make sure that internally everything is fixed. Because if we don't allow the time to do that, then not only will we be breaking, but we go out broken, right? And we find ourselves in these situations that we think that we've healed from, thinking that we can heal other people, not realizing we're in situations that actually trigger us and cause more breaks. So making sure that we actually give ourselves time as women to focus on that healing, and also making sure that we have the right resources to carry out that journey. So one thing that we are very, very open about is our faith. Faith is a big part of our healing journey. In fact, without faith, it's often very difficult for you to go on that healing journey, because faith is the power with which we are able to heal, right? It's only if you have a good grasp on your faith, or have faith that this thing can happen for me, that you'd be able to go out into the world and say this can happen for you too. So actually giving yourself time, actually subjecting yourself to the power that there is and the freedom, as you said, in faith, believing that you can be healed, believing that you are somebody that is worthy of care and love, and giving yourself that is probably one of the most powerful things that we can do as women. Like, you don't have to pour out from an empty bucket anymore, because there's so many women, including myself, where we think we have to lay our lives down, which is true. But you can't lay down your life if you never had it in the first place. It's impossible for you to die again if you were already a dead vessel. So it's really important for us to bring life into ourselves before we can lay that down for other people. So prioritizing your own healing journey, really prioritizing pouring into yourself so that you can operate from a place of fullness. Like, we often think of the two greatest commandments, to love God and love his people. The first commandment is to love God. So you really need to experience, we were speaking about this in one of our previous episodes, the importance of experiencing God's love for yourself and experiencing that wholeness and that healing for yourself before you go out and love his people. If you don't have a revelation of God's love, it is impossible for you to be able to love people to the fullness of that capacity. So to the women that are interested in doing that work so that they can really go out into the world to be change makers, to be, you know, the wonderful things that God has called them to, first remember that God has called you to him.
Mm.
Before you go out to what God has called you to, God has called you to him.
Right.
So actually spending time with yourself, with God, that healing journey, allowing him to really surface the things that make you uncomfortable, surface the things that actually trigger you, surface the things that make you so uncomfortable, because it's in dealing with those that you can help other people deal with that.
Yeah.
So and also I think believing in God's plan and trusting in God's plan is so important as well, because especially when you are going through it, right, you're going through really difficult and tough experiences. In the moment you'll be thinking, oh, but why am I going through this experience? I hate it here.
I hate it here.
You know, I'm
a celebrity.
Listen, I'm a celebrity.
Get
Get
me
me out
out.
of here. Mayday, mayday.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, even in those game shows, right, when things get tough, you can press the eject button
Literally
and be like,
eject.
producers,
I'm
I'm
done.
off.
I'm done.
I'm going up. Listen, even Love is Island, Love Island, people will be out here
Love
saying,
is
I
Island
know,
is so
I'm
artificial.
glad. Why do you,
Sorry, I'm
why
so
do you
sorry.
think?
I'm so sorry.
No, but Connie, this is why we
I'm
need
actually
Not
we
so
need fresh
sorry.
blood
Yeah,
on this
yeah.
podcast.
Love
Order.
Island.
Love
yes.
Island. Sorry guys, that was so auntie of me. I can't believe that.
It's okay then. You are flowing. You are flowing.
Auntie, I was
Go.
flowing. Yeah.
Go,
Flowing.
go, go.
The love is the island. Even on these reality TV shows, you can press the eject button.
Yeah.
You can say, I'm walking away
tapping
from
out.
this. But that's not reality. It may be reality
Well,
TV. That's not reality.
come
In reality, you
on.
cannot press eject out of your situation.
Yeah.
You
Come
actually cannot leave your situation.
Right.
So it's either you go through your situation or your situation breaks you.
Come on.
So I think for women, really seeing their situations or what they're currently going through as an opportunity to lay the foundations for how God is going to use them later down the line. There was a reason that, you know, we experienced what we experienced going when we were growing up.
Yeah.
There was a reason that we can now speak to so many things with such authority.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because we are the expert, but because we have the lived experience of it. But also we have the lived experience of what the other side looks like.
Yeah.
So for just to encourage the women that are thinking, oh, I want to go through this healing process and I also want to change the world and stuff like that. Understanding that there is an other side, knowing and trusting and believing that God intends for you to get to the other side. It's not just about the situation that you're in right now, whether it's broken relationships, whether it's feeling like you can't progress beyond the current point that you're at. It's understanding that there is another side, and once you get to the other side, you'll actually be able to go back and pull other people to the other side. So that's what I would say.
No,
That's
that
so
is
beautiful.
so on point. So on point. And I think it brought to my mind so many things that I've been reflecting on recently, which is if you do not deal with your brokenness, when you go to embrace somebody, you'll hurt them. You'll hurt them. And I think a lot of us want to lead people, help people, but we don't realize that we are walking
In
weapons.
broken.
We are walking
Walking
weapons.
weapons.
Like we could hurt them. We could actually hurt them because a lot of the people we want to be intimate with us, our friends, like forget about even just going out into the world and change making and running a women's community, whatever.
Right.
The people who we want to be intimate with, there is a danger to us getting closer to them if we do not address the brokenness that's on us or with us. And I think the perfect example of this for me has been even mentoring you, right? Which is in this intimate walk with one another, seeing each other very often, having to communicate, having to hold you accountable. It has and I think this is actually God's love and God's mercy. Like it has also caused me to look at myself in a different way. And I think in that intimate relationship of walking with somebody, it's revealed to me certain things that will come up in my own heart where God is like, see, deal with that, deal with that, deal with that, right? And one of the biggest examples I can give was when you're holding somebody accountable, you're trying to help somebody get from A to B, you then start to realize that it takes compassion to nurture somebody. You actually have to nurture your mentee or nurture the people who you want to do life with, right? Even our friendship with each other, it's about nurturing, but you can't nurture from a place of no experience. You can't nurture from a place of not relating to this person's actual needs, right? I can push you and be like, Emmanuelle, you said you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. Wake up. Those words are easy to come out of my mouth until I then assess, Courtney, why don't you wake up early? You know? And then once I start assessing why I don't wake up early, do you get what I mean? Then I'm like, when I tell you to wake up at 5 a.m., it's not coming from an empty place of a military person. It's that I am going through the trenches too.
With you.
I know what it's like to go through the trenches as well. So when I'm telling you to do this thing, or when I'm holding you accountable to the person you want to be,
Yeah.
I know the pain that birthed it.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
saying it's an easy journey, but
not
I've
easy.
actually walked that road. And so I'm walking with you on that road. And I think unless you address your brokenness and, like you said, experience the healing blueprint that you need to go through, you can't take anybody else through it because you haven't been through it. You haven't walked it, so you don't know the way. And I think that's one of the things when it comes to change making or leading people, you need to know the way. And the only way you'll get to know the way is if you've walked it before. And it doesn't need to look the exact same, but I can't tell you, I can't answer some of your questions if I have not addressed the questions that I have myself about my own journey, right? And so I think I've experienced what it's like to try and lead people, or I have been led by people who have become weapons against me because they are not compassionate towards me as they lead me.
Wow.
The ad-libs you do sometimes.
Listen.
Yeah, and it's rough because women experience it a lot, where people know who you should be, but they don't know how to mold you into that person because they don't know what it's like. Throwing around the word like you should heal, but you don't know how hard it is to go through therapy. You don't know how hard it is to sit down and be confronting your own trauma face to face. You don't know how long that thing takes. So it actually makes you a better leader to go through the path that you want to take people down, because as we always say, then you can point to them and be like, that's a ditch over there, don't do that. I tried that, it pricked me, I bled, I don't want you to go through that. But you won't be able to do that from a place of compassion. You'll do this from a place of dictatorship, right? And that's the control a lot of people want to have over their followers, or the level of control they want to have over their mentee. I control you, basically. It's like, no, I am actually called to be somewhat of a midwife. I don't get to take your baby home.
Loose
You
me
have
and
to
let
take
me
your
go.
baby home. As much as I journeyed with you and it was painful and I can relate to the pains of childbirth, I have to be okay with the fact that this baby is yours. Your healing is actually yours, right? Me helping you cultivate who you are as a woman is actually yours. And I will not be able to let that go, to let go of that place of control or holding on to you in a toxic way, or even being able to let your followers evolve past you if you feel like you cannot relate to that pain of the labor, right? Because when you relate to the pain of the labor, you know, as much as I was helping you, I wasn't the one feeling the contractions. And I know what those contractions feel like, so I can let you have your baby. Do you get what I mean? I don't need to hold on to it. So I feel like as a generation, it's when you're called to lead people, you have to realize you're just a part of a bigger thing that God is trying to do for the person. It doesn't belong to you. Like the breakthrough, the equipping and the learning that people get from TMS and them experiencing this sisterhood, that's not for us. Do you get what I mean? That's God's work, the work that he's doing with women, and we get to be a part of that, which is beautiful. But if you have not addressed your own brokenness, addressed why you feel like your identity is in the fact that this person listened to my podcast, or my identity is in the fact that she was mentored by me and me specifically. If you don't address that your identity is in that place, you won't get to experience what God is actually doing. It will be taken from you. And I think the last thing that I will say is the importance of healing is because a lot of women don't know what they look like in a whole state. They actually don't know what a whole and healed version of themselves looks like because they've never experienced it. A lot of us are experiencing trauma from the womb. We're experiencing pain from our parents who raised us from when we were children. So now we actually don't know what it looks like to be healed and free and happy. We actually don't know what that is. And so when you get to know yourself in that state, you realize that your identity isn't in the things that you actually can do and in your performance. You're actually whole and happy and know exactly who you are without the extra things, right? And so I think it's about falling in love with who you are when the pieces are put back together. And it's like being a vase. When a vase is broken, it can easily identify its purpose in the fact that it can hold flowers, but it will never hold flowers well if there are cracks in the vase, right? So what is the thing that it needs to do? It needs to put itself back together, or someone needs to come and put it back together, which is why a community is important. And once that vase is put back together, it may not look like what it looked like before. It may have a few scars and a few cracks, but it's still a vase. And now, whether there are flowers in it or not, and no matter what the flowers look like, whether the flowers are bearing fruit or not, it doesn't change the fact that it's a vase. Do you get what I mean? So when you know exactly who you are and you repair the pieces, you're no longer obsessed with the fruit. It's just about being.
Wow, that was so pregnant. That was so full. was so cool. I'm like, my mind is wow.